Good morning, everyone. Let's see if I can get that a little bit louder. Good morning, everyone. Our reading this morning is from a book called Ritual by Malidoma Patrice Sommet. A community is a place of self-definition. Any group of people meeting with the intention of connecting to the power within is a community. People seek to explore what has frustrated, betrayed, and constituted a deep wound in their hearts. What they are trying to do is restore their inner power, which has been tarnished. Without a community, you cannot be yourself. The community is where we draw strength needed to effect changes inside of us. Community is formed each time more than one person meets for a purpose. Development of community depends on what the people involved consent to. What one acknowledges in the formation of the community is the possibility of doing together what is impossible to do alone. This acknowledgement is also an objection against the isolation of individuals and individualism by a society in service of the machine. What we want is to create community that meets the intrinsic need of every individual. The individual can finally discover within the community something to relate to, because deep down inside each of us is a craving for an honoring of our individualism. A true community does not need a police force. The very presence of law enforcement systems in a community is an indication that something is not working. And the presence of the police is supposed to make it work. Such a force is essentially repressive, which means that certain people in such dysfunctional community do not know how to fit in. A community is a place where there is consensus, not where there is an onlooker with a gun creating an atmosphere of unrest. A functioning community does not need to peer at its members to make sure that they comply with the law. A functioning community is one that is its own protection. And one cannot form a community whose goal is to tear the rest of society apart. A true community begins in the hearts of the people involved. It is not a place of distraction, but a place of being. It is not a place where you reform, but a place where you go home to. We need ritual because it is an expression of the fact that we recognize the difficulty of creating a different and special kind of community. A community that doesn't have ritual cannot exist.
wait and see what a world there will be when we share, you and me.
I want to start this by saying that today I'm bringing you Reverend Esther's words, and so I'm going to read this from the perspective of Reverend Esther. This is not quite the service I had initially invited Alex to give this morning. I had one pretty much ready to go this week, which is good because I have COVID right now and haven't had much energy to sermon write this week. Don't worry, Alex has been quarantined in the other side of our home and testing negative all week. I wouldn't have asked them to be here with you today otherwise. But as it turns out, I couldn't sleep well yesterday. When I don't sleep well, I usually try not to look at my phone and to just let my body rest. But for some reason, I did eventually look at my phone, only to learn that ICE had once again executed someone in the streets as they continue to terrorize people all over our country. I think I probably don't need to explain to this particular congregation that ICE's actions are unequivocally wrong and dangerous, even as our politicians dither about whether or not to fund them again. And I know that some of us would probably rather we didn't speak about this from the pulpit. I know some of us are tired of hearing about politics, and some of us are so involved in pushing back on the many terrible things being perpetrated that we want one space where we don't have to hear all about all of it. And believe me, there are plenty of things I would rather spend my time up here talking about. But I believe something that can be controversial among some people, clergy included. I believe that spaces of teaching and learning and sharing ideas are intertwined with the political, even if we don't want them to be. That includes the pulpit and ritual space. If I were to choose to say nothing about what's currently happening, to act as if it's business as usual, that too would be a political choice. Silence itself is a statement, and you know me well enough to know that I cannot be silent on a matter such as this. Because politics are not separate from our spiritual lives, what happens out there has an impact on what happens in here. For people of justice and peace, our troubling times seem to become more fraught by the day. We ask ourselves, what are we to do during these times? What actions do our values call us to take? And how do we make sure our own inner reservoirs stay full so that we have the spiritual resource necessary to keep going? Now, initially, I had a nice cozy homily about ritual prepared for you. I was trying to ease us into the new year. But sometimes the year is born through a difficult labor. And in these times, giving attention to our spiritual selves is a vital practice so that we can continue to give attention to our political selves. We must find ways daily to remind ourselves of who we are and who we want to be. We must find ways to live in the present moment, difficult as it may be, and to imagine a kinder, more just future. For me, that's where rituals come in. Rituals are a technology that can provide us insight, reassurance, and spiritual fortitude. Something tells me that we are going to need all of those in 2026 and beyond. Ritual can also support our spiritual and ethical intentions, and I know a lot of us set intentions around this time of year with a variable success rate of sticking to them. While they can be elaborate, rituals don't need to be anything fancy. I've made a pilgrimage ritual out of walking from my bed to my electric kettle to make my morning tea. I notice my breath, the feeling of my steps on the ground, the smell of the tea leaves before I pour the hot water over them, the sound of the water pouring, the heat of the cup, the smell of the tea as it brews, the taste of it on my tongue. I find this very grounding, centering, and a great way to begin each morning. The power of ritual is available to us in very accessible, very foundational places, if we take a moment to look for it. I'll give you another example. I also like to begin each morning, especially mornings where I'm going to be engaged in my work as a hospice chaplain or a minister, by going out on our deck and greeting the lake. I greet the waters, the air, Mount Canocti, the sun, the moon, the stars. I greet the elements, the creatures of this land, my ancestors, and the Shekinah, the one who dwells within. I thank them all, and I share a little bit about my hopes for the day. I never fail to feel a little calmer about my day, a little more settled in my body, and a little more connected to the world around me after I've completed this ritual. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this morning, it's that the elements of ritual are all around us. We already have weekly rituals we create together when we come here. And to me, the elements of air, water, earth, fire, and spirit are foundational to ritual. So today, I want to offer us a few simple ways into ritual that I hope can be building blocks for all of us as we find ways to navigate the year ahead. Our service is structured a little differently today, to place more of an emphasis on some of the rituals we already practice together. I encourage you to have some fun with it, and if you don't care for it, don't worry. I'm sure things will be back to a more usual state next week. The first ritual block will be the element of air. The air is all around us, hopefully always accessible to us. We need it to survive, to think, and to speak. An awareness of breath is foundational to spiritual practices in many traditions. In my own Jewish tradition, we talk about the spirit of creation hovering over the primordial waters at the beginning of the world, and then breathing life into the universe. Thich Nhat Hanh writes that to breathe in consciously is to know that air is entering your body, and to breathe out consciously is to know that your body is exchanging air. Thus, you are in contact with the air and with your body. And because your mind is being attentive to all of this, you are in contact with your mind too, just as it is. It only needs one conscious breath to be back in contact with yourself and everything around you, and 3 conscious breaths to maintain that contact. Whenever you are not standing, sitting, or lying down, you are going. But where are you going? You have already arrived. With every step you take, you can arrive in the present moment. When you are walking from one side of the room to the other, or from one building to another, be aware of the contact of your feet with the earth. Be aware of the contact of the air as it enters your body. It may help you to discover how many steps you can make comfortably during an in-breath and how many during an out-breath. As you breathe in, you can say in, and as you breathe out, you can say out. Then you are practicing walking meditation all day long. It is a practice which is constantly possible and therefore has the power to transform our everyday life. I love this passage because I think it speaks to the simplicity and accessibility of ritual as it can manifest in our daily lives. Ritual can be as simple as breathing. Moving through the rest of this service, I invite you to pay special attention to your breath. And moving throughout this week, this month, and this year, I invite you to notice the rituals in your life that ground you. Notice when a small action you perform seems to create a little more space in your mind, your body, and your spirit. If you're feeling agitated by the news, slow down and ask yourself what feels like it might help you reconnect with the present moment. Is it breathing, being in contact with nature, listening to music, praying, meditating, or cultivating another spiritual practice? Finally, don't be afraid to practice together. We need each other, especially in times when there are troubles of the world, when the troubles of the world are frightening, overwhelming, and may seem insurmountable. Ritual offers us a way to connect with one another and the more than human world, and we need that connection to nourish our spirits for the long haul. As Marge Piercy writes, keep tangling and interweaving and taking in more. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure, make love that is loving. May we keep tangling, interweaving, and taking more in, weaving real connections, and helping to create a loving world. Amen, Selah, blessed be. Kenya hear its own, may it be so.